The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 73 different alien species. Captain Ji-won Park stood in the center, her hands clasped behind her back. She wore her navy blue uniform with pride, even though she knew what was coming. Around her, thousands of alien eyes watched from their seats. Carved into the circular walls that rose up like a giant amphitheater, the air smelled strange to her, filtered and processed to accommodate so many different biologies. She could hear the whispers, the clicks, the strange harmonics of alien languages mixing together. They were all talking about her, about humanity, about the charges. Arbiter Vestalis floated above the center platform, his crystalline body catching the light and throwing rainbows across the dark walls. When he spoke, his voice came directly into everyone's mind through neural implants. It was uncomfortable, like someone placing thoughts in her head that weren't her own. The Galactic Council recognizes Captain Ji-won Park, of species designation human, representative of Sol System and associated colonies, the Arbiter said. His mental voice was cold and formal. The charges have been reviewed. The evidence has been examined. This council will now present its findings. In the observation deck above, Minho Choi leaned forward in his seat. The engineer had built half the jump drives humanity used, and he knew every technical specification of their ships. Beside him, Hiren Lee gripped the armrest of her chair. She was a xenobiologist who had spent years studying alien species, trying to understand them, trying to help humanity fit into this galactic community. Now, all that work might be for nothing. Charge 1, Vextalis continued. Humanity has expanded into 12 star systems without proper authorization from the Territorial Commission. You have established colonies in regions that were marked for controlled development. Ji-won said nothing. It was true. Humanity had found empty systems, rich with resources, and they had settled there. The Territorial Commission had told them to wait, to fill out forms, to pay fees. But humans had families who needed homes, children who needed futures. They couldn't wait 50 years for bureaucrats to approve paperwork. Charge 2. Humanity has adapted and modified council-approved technology without permission. You have made changes to standard jump drives, medical equipment, and communication systems. This violates the Technology Preservation Act. Again, Ji-won remained silent. Yes, humans had improved the technology. They made jump drives more efficient. They made medical equipment that could heal faster. Why use worse technology when you could make it better? The Council's answer had always been the same, because the rules say so. Charge 3. Humanity has made contact with pre-spacefaring species without Council supervision. You have shared technology and knowledge with species that have not been cleared for advancement. This charge made Ji-won angry, but she kept her face calm. Humanity had found 3 species who were close to developing space travel on their own. Instead of leaving them alone or controlling their development like the Council preferred, humans had reached out as friends. They had shared knowledge, helped them solve problems, treated them as equals. The Council called this dangerous uplifting. Humans called it friendship. Charge 4. Humanity has disrupted established trade networks by offering goods and services at prices below market standards. This has caused economic instability in 7 sectors. Minho whispered to Hiren in the observation deck. They mean we made things cheaper so ordinary people could afford them. Hiren nodded. The Council likes high prices. It keeps the big corporations wealthy. Vextalis paused, and his crystalline body seemed to pulse with light. The Council has deliberated. These charges represent a pattern of behavior that threatens the stability and order of galactic civilization. Humanity has been a member of this council for only 50 years, yet you have caused more disruption than most species cause in 1,000 years. You refuse to follow established procedures. You refuse to respect traditional boundaries. You refuse to accept that the rules exist for good reasons. You believe your way is better than the wisdom of species who have been traveling the stars since your ancestors lived in caves. Jiwan finally spoke. With respect, Arbiter, we believe that old rules should be questioned, that better ways should be tried, that people should be free to silence, Vextalis commanded, and Jiwan felt the word like a pressure in her skull. The Council has reached its verdict. Species designation human is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. All rights and privileges are revoked. All treaties are void. All trade agreements are terminated. The chamber erupted in sounds from dozens of species. Some were clearly celebrating. Others seemed uncertain. A very few, looked sad. Furthermore, Vextalis continued, humanity is banned from all Council-controlled space. You have 1 standard year to withdraw all colonies, all stations, all vessels from any territory within Council boundaries. You will proceed beyond the Outer Rim. You will not return. Any human vessels found within Council space after 1 year will be seized or destroyed. You are exiled. The words hung in the air, exiled, cast out, banished to the dark regions of space beyond the civilized galaxy. It was meant to be a death sentence. Species that went beyond the rim usually disappeared. Resources were scarce there. Systems were unexplored. It was dangerous and unknown. G1 stood perfectly still for a moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. It wasn't a big smile, just a slight curve of her lips. But several of the alien observers noticed it, and they felt confused. Why would she smile? She reached up and tapped the communicator on her collar. Proceed, she said quietly. Vextalis noticed the word. What was that? Nothing, Arbiter, G1 said, still smiling. Just confirming receipt of your verdict. Humanity will comply with the Council's decision. We will withdraw beyond the rim. You seem pleased, a voice said from the Council seats. It was Councillor Nithrax, a being who controlled much of the galactic trade. Do you not understand? You are being exiled, sent away. Your species will likely die in the dark regions. G1 looked up at the Councillor. We understand perfectly. You're sending us away because you can't control us. Because we ask too many questions. Because we make things better and cheaper, which threatens your profits. Because we treat younger species as friends instead of vassals. You tried to make us fit into your old broken system. We couldn't, so now you're sending us away. Her smile grew slightly wider. Thank you. The chamber went quiet. That wasn't the response they expected. Thank you? Vextalis repeated. Yes. Thank you for showing us that we don't need you. Thank you for proving that your council is more interested in control than in progress. Thank you for giving us permission to leave. G1 turned in a slow circle, looking at all the species watching her. Humanity accepts your verdict. We will go beyond the rim, and we will be fine. She walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. As she reached the door, she looked back one last time. Better than fine, actually. We'll be free. The door closed behind her, and Captain Jiwan Park was gone down in the observation deck. Minho and Hiram looked at each other. She knew, Minho said. She knew they were going to do this. Of course she knew, Hiram replied. We all knew. That's why we've been preparing for 20 years. She stood up and gathered her things. Come on, we have a lot of work to do. 1 year isn't much time to move an entire civilization. As they left, neither of them looked worried. Like their captain, they both wore small, knowing smiles. The galaxy had tried to exile humanity. They had no idea what they had just done. Commander Dian Kang stood on the bridge of the massive colony ship, watching Earth grow smaller through the viewport. Behind him, 36 similar ships were beginning their journey away from humanity's home system. News drones from various alien species buzzed around them like insects, recording everything. "Make sure they get good footage," Diane said to his communications officer. "We want them to see us leaving, defeated, sad, compliant." The officer nodded and adjusted the external cameras. The drones would see exactly what the Council wanted to see: humanity, tucking its tail and running away. But what the drones didn't see was happening in the lower decks. While the big colony ships moved slowly through normal space, drawing all the attention, smaller ships were detaching and slipping away through routes that the Council didn't know existed. These ships used jump drives that humanity had developed in secret, drives that didn't need the Council's gates or infrastructure. On the planet below, scientist Suman Kwan was supervising the final preparations. Her team had spent 15 years building a network of hidden jump points, creating pathways through space that bypassed all Council monitoring stations. Now those pathways would save humanity. "Station 7 reports all ships away clean," one of her assistants said. "No detection." "Station 12 confirms the same," another added. Sumin allowed herself a small smile. The Council thought humans only knew how to use their technology. They didn't realize humans had been quietly revolutionizing it. Every time the Council said, "That's impossible," human engineers heard, "That's a challenge." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. On the agricultural world of New Sejong, farmer Taiyang Shin was loading the last containers onto transport ships. The alien observers watching from a distance saw farming equipment, seed containers, and basic supplies. They saw refugees taking only what they needed to survive. They didn't see the truth. "That's the last of the fabricators," Taiyang's son whispered to him. "Disguised as irrigation systems. And the genetic archives?" Taiyang asked. "All loaded. Labeled as seed banks, which technically they are. Just not plant seeds." The containers held the genetic information of every species humanity had encountered, every plant they had cultivated, every animal they had domesticated. They held the complete library of human knowledge, compressed into databases that looked like simple farming records. They held manufacturing templates that could build anything from medical equipment to starship components. The Council watchers saw desperate farmers. They didn't see the foundation of a new civilization being carefully packed and moved out in the capital city. Diplomat Yuna Han was making her final appearance on Galactic News. She stood before cameras from 24 species, her expression carefully composed to show dignity and acceptance. "Humanity respects the Council's decision," she said, her voice steady. "We understand that we have been disruptive. We accept that our methods have caused concern. We will withdraw beyond the rim and build our future there, whatever that future may be." The words were humble. The tone was gracious. But her eyes, for anyone who knew humans well, told a different story. They sparkled with something that wasn't quite defeat. Several of the alien reporters noticed it, but couldn't quite identify what they were seeing. It was Anticipation in orbit above Mars. Admiral Junho Nam met with Dr. Sarah Oh in a secure conference room. The physicist had brought data that would change everything. "You're certain?" Junho asked, studying the charts she had displayed. "Absolutely certain," Sarah replied. "The Forbidden Zone isn't forbidden because it's dangerous. It's forbidden because it's valuable. The Council has been lying about the conditions there for over 1,000 years." Junho leaned back in his chair. "How valuable?" 12 systems, all resource-rich. Rare minerals. Habitable planets. Energy sources. Everything we need to not just survive, but to thrive. Sarah pulled up another chart. "And the so-called dangerous anomalies? They're natural phenomena that are perfectly safe. The Council just spread rumors to keep everyone away. Why? Artificial scarcity. Keep resources limited, keep prices high, keep the population dependent on the Council's distribution systems. It's the oldest trick in the book. Sierra's expression hardened. They've been hoarding an entire region of space while species struggle with limited resources. Junho nodded slowly. And we found this how long ago? 20 years. Right after we joined the Council and got access to their historical databases. We've been quietly exploring the Forbidden Zone ever since. They have no monitoring stations there because they're afraid someone might discover the truth. So when they exile us beyond the rim, they're sending us exactly where we want to go. To the resource-rich systems they've been hiding. We'll have everything we need. Junho started to laugh. He couldn't help it. They think they're punishing us. They're giving us a gift. The year of withdrawal passed quickly. Humanity's public departure was slow and well documented. The Council watched with satisfaction as human ships crawled away from civilized space, heading toward the dark regions beyond the rim. They saw military vessels powering down weapons. They saw colonies being abandoned. They saw a species in retreat. What they didn't see was the real exodus. Thousands of ships moving through hidden routes. Manufacturing equipment being relocated. Research stations being established in the Forbidden Zone. Military vessels not being decommissioned but being upgraded with new technology. As the deadline approached, Yunahan sent one final message to the Council. It was broadcast across all channels, ensuring every species would hear it. This is Yunahan, speaking for humanity one last time from Council space. We are departing as required. We wish the Council well. We hope that the galaxy prospers. We thank those species who showed us friendship during our time here. We will remember you. She paused, and again, that strange look appeared in her eyes. To the Council, we say this. You have made your decision, and we respect it. You wanted us gone. We are gone. We wish you well in managing the galaxy as you see fit. Another pause. We won't trouble you again. You have our word. The message ended. Yunahan's image faded from screens across the galaxy. What the Council heard was surrender. What humanity's few alien friends heard was something else entirely. They heard a promise that was also a warning. They heard goodbye from a species that didn't sound defeated at all. On the outer edge of Council space, the last official human vessel crossed beyond the rim. Commander Doyen Kang logged the moment carefully. We are now outside Council territory, he announced. All requirements of the Exile have been met. His crew remained silent for a moment. Then someone started clapping. Then another. Soon the entire bridge was applauding. Course? His navigator asked. Set course for the sanctuary systems, Doyen ordered. Let's go home. Our real home. The ship turned and accelerated, disappearing into dark space. Behind it, all the monitoring stations showed the same thing. Empty space. Humanity had vanished. The Council celebrated. They had eliminated their most troublesome member. Several species immediately moved to claim former human territories, squabbling over the colonies and stations that humans had left behind. They didn't notice that those colonies had been stripped of anything valuable. They didn't realize that the stations were empty shells. They were so focused on dividing the scraps that they didn't ask the important question. Where had humanity really gone? In the sanctuary systems, thousands of ships were arriving. Space stations were coming online. Colonies were being established. Dr. Sarah O had been right. The resources were incredible. The systems were perfect, and humanity was free. Free from Council rules. Free from bureaucratic restrictions. Free from limitations imposed by species who feared change. Admiral Jinho Nam stood in the command center of what would become New Business Station, watching the construction crews work. 1 year, he said to Sarah, who stood beside him. We convinced them we needed a year to withdraw. Really, we needed a year to finish moving everything we'd already started relocating 20 years ago. They never suspected. They were too busy congratulating themselves. Too busy believing their own propaganda about how dangerous the Rim is. Too busy thinking we were weak and defeated. Jun-Ho smiled. Their arrogance was our advantage. Sierra nodded. So, what now? Now we build. We grow. We advance. Without the Council holding us back, we'll see what humanity can really do. He gestured at the viewport, at the ships and stations, and the promise of a new beginning. They tried to exile us. They gave us exactly what we needed. Freedom. Kara's realm was running out of options. The four-armed Qualari trader had been working the outer edges of Council space for 3 decades, and he had never been this desperate. His ship needed repairs he couldn't afford. His cargo hold was empty. The trade routes he knew were drying up as bigger corporations pushed out independent traders like him. So, when his sensors picked up strange signals near the Forbidden Zone, he made a decision that most would call crazy. He turned his ship toward the boundary that the Council forbade anyone to cross. Just a quick look, he told himself. Maybe some salvage. Something valuable that got lost out here. The signals grew stronger as he crossed into the dark region. His instruments were showing energy signatures, lots of them. But they weren't random. They were organized, structured. They looked like stations? Karis whispered, staring at his screen. He increased speed, his curiosity overwhelming his fear. What he saw when he cleared the interference made him forget to breathe for several moments. Stations. Massive. Space stations orbiting a cluster of stars. Not old stations. Not abandoned stations. Active stations, lit up and clearly operational. And ships. Dozens of ships moving between the stations. Sleek designs he had never seen before. His communications panel suddenly activated. Unidentified vessel. This is Captain Jemensong of the Horizon's Dawn. You have entered sanctuary space. Please state your intentions. The voice was speaking in standard galactic language, but the accent was unfamiliar. Karis's database searched frantically and came up with a match that seemed impossible. Human. I am just a trader, Karis stammered. I didn't mean to intrude. I was looking for salvage. I didn't know anyone was here. There was a pause. Then, we understand. You're not in any trouble. Would you like to dock? We have repair facilities if your ship needs maintenance. Karis looked at his damaged hull, his empty fuel cells, his broken life support backup. Yes, I would appreciate that very much. Following the Horizon's Dawn, Karis approached the largest station. It was enormous, easily 3 times the size of the biggest Council station he had ever seen. The docking bay alone could hold 50 ships his size. As he maneuvered his vessel inside, he saw other ships of various alien designs. Not all of them were human. Captain Yemen Song met him at the airlock. The human was young, maybe 30 standard years, with a confident smile. Welcome to New Business Station. I'm Yemen. Let's get your ship taken care of, and then I think you should meet our governor. The station was incredible, clean, efficient. The technology looked advanced. More advanced than what Karis had seen in Council space. Aliens of several species moved through the corridors, working alongside humans. Everyone seemed busy but not stressed. The atmosphere was completely different from the cramped, competitive feeling of Council stations. Governor Mirabe met him in an observation room overlooking the station's central hub. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see right through him. Mr. Valm, she said, offering her hand in the human greeting. Welcome. I imagine you have questions. How? Karis blurted out. The Council exiled you. 20 years ago. You were supposed to I mean, everyone thought we would die out here? Myra smiled. That was the idea. The council wanted us gone, and they assumed the Forbidden Zone would finish what they started. But this... Carries gestured at the station. The activity beyond the windows. This is not dying. This is thriving. Yes. Would you like to see why? Over the next several hours, Myra and her team showed Karis things that challenged everything he thought he knew. Engineer Sunho Lee took him through the manufacturing centers. The machines were producing goods at twice the speed of council facilities with half the waste. Without council regulations restricting our methods, we could optimize everything, Sunho explained. The council's manufacturing rules aren't about safety or quality. They're about making sure production stays slow enough to keep prices high. Karis picked up a component from the assembly line. It was flawless. This would cost 50 credits in council space. We can make it for 5, Sunho said. And we do. Scientist Yumbi Park showed him the medical facilities. Karis watched as a human doctor treated an alien patient with a disease that the council said was incurable. We cured it 3 years ago, Umbi explained. It wasn't even that difficult. The council never invested in the research because the treatment medications were profitable. Why cure something when you can treat it forever? Karis felt something cold settle in his stomach. They let people suffer for profit? Now you're understanding why we're not sorry we were exiled. The tour continued. Agricultural centers using techniques that tripled crop yields. Education facilities where young humans and young aliens studied together. Research labs working on problems that the council had declared unsolvable. How did you advance so quickly? Karis asked. Myra answered. We stopped following rules designed to hold us back. Every time the council said, that's not allowed, we asked, why not? Usually, the answer was to protect someone's profit margin or maintain the status quo. Without those restrictions, without bureaucrats telling us what we couldn't do, we advanced 20 years worth of technology in actual 20 years. She pulled up star charts and the resources. The council kept this region forbidden because it's rich with everything a civilization needs. Rare elements, habitable worlds, energy sources. They hoarded it while telling everyone resources were scarce. That's... Karis couldn't find the words. Criminal? Myra suggested. Yes, we thought so too. Admiral Hyung-woo Choi met them in the military command center. The admiral was a stern man with the bearing of someone who had seen combat. He showed Karis the fleet, hundreds of warships. Not the clunky, standardized vessels the council used, but sleek, fast ships with clean lines and obvious power. We didn't build these to attack anyone, Hyun-woo said. We built them because we knew the council wouldn't let us remain free forever. When they discover what we've built here, they'll try to take it or destroy it. He pulled up tactical displays. Our ships are faster. Our shields are stronger. Our weapons are more precise. We learned from 20 years of studying council military technology and asking, how can we make this better? Karis felt overwhelmed. Why are you showing me all this? Why not keep it secret? Mira stepped forward. Because we want you to tell them. Go back to council space. Tell them what you saw. Tell them humanity didn't die in exile. We became stronger. Tell them we don't need them anymore, Sunho added. Tell them we're trading with anyone who wants fair deals. Good prices and honest business, Yumbi said. Tell them we're coming back, Admiral Hyung-woo finished. Not to beg for membership. Not to ask for permission. We're coming back as equals. Myra's expression grew serious. Or tell them to try exiling us again. See how that works this time. Karis spent 3 days at New Business Station. His ship was repaired, better than it had been when it was new. His cargo hold was filled with goods he could sell for a significant profit, given to him as a gift. He met humans and aliens working together, building something better than what the Council offered. On the day, he prepared to leave. Captain Yemen walked him back to his ship. "Will you tell them?" Yemen asked. Karras thought about his species, the Quillari, who struggled under Council trade restrictions. He thought about all the independent traders being pushed out by big corporations. He thought about species told they couldn't advance because the Council said so. "Yes," he said finally. "I'll tell them, but I don't think they'll believe me." Yemen smiled. "They will eventually. And when they do, things are going to change." As Karras' ship pulled away from New Business Station, he looked back at the incredible sight of humanity's new home. They had been exiled, cast out, sentenced to die in the dark regions of space. Instead, they had built a civilization that made the Council look primitive. He set course for Council space, his mind already composing the report he would make. The Council needed to know. Everyone needed to know. Humanity was back. And they had brought the future with them, behind him. Governor Mirabay stood in the observation deck with her senior staff, watching the trader's ship disappear. "Think he'll actually tell them?" Sunho asked. "Oh, he'll tell them," Myra replied. "And they'll scramble. They'll panic. They'll try to figure out what to do about us." "Good," Admiral Hyunwoo said. "Let them panic. We've had 20 years to prepare. Whatever they try, we're ready." Yoonbi looked thoughtful. "Do you think they'll try diplomacy or force?" "Both probably," Myra answered. "First, they'll try to intimidate us back into submission. When that doesn't work, they'll try economic pressure. When that fails, they might try military action. And then?" Mira smiled, and it was the same confident smile that Captain Ji-won Park had worn 20 years ago in the Council chamber. "Then they'll learn what humans have known all along. You can't defeat people who refuse to stay defeated. You can exile them, but you can't break them. The Council tried to get rid of us. Instead, they created their own competition, their own replacement." She turned away from the window. "Come on, we have work to do. When word reaches the Council, things are going to get interesting." Trade Councilor Nithrax noticed the problem first. His species, the Voltrani, controlled most of the galactic shipping routes, and they had been profitable for centuries. But over the past 6 months, something had changed. The numbers were wrong. "Explain this," he demanded, pointing at the financial reports spread across his desk. "Why are our profits down 30%? His assistant, a nervous young Voltrani, shuffled through data tablets. "The border colonies are refusing our contracts, Counselor. They say they have better offers." "Better offers? From whom?" "We control the shipping in those sectors." "That's the problem, sir. We don't anymore. There are new traders operating in the region, offering lower prices, better service. Many of our clients are switching." Nithrax felt a cold sensation in his core. "New traders? What species?" The assistant hesitated. "The reports say human." The word hung in the air like poison. "Impossible. Humans were exiled 20 years ago. They're gone. That's what we thought too, sir." Investigator Zalon Prime was sent to the border regions to discover the truth. She was one of the Council's best investigators, known for her thorough work and sharp mind. What she found in the outer colony shocked her. The markets were flooded with goods of exceptional quality at prices that seemed impossible. Medical supplies, technology components, food products, all stamped with manufacturers she had never heard of, all coming from beyond the rim. She tracked down the traders. Some were aliens she recognized, species that had always struggled under Council trade restrictions. But behind them, she found the source. Humans. They weren't hiding. They operated openly, their ships moving through space with confidence. Their merchants negotiated fairly. Their goods were superior. and species across the border region were choosing them over. Council-approved suppliers.zil uninterviewed dozens of colonists. The story was always the same. The council charges us 300 credits for medical supplies. One colony administrator told her. The human traders sell the same supplies, better quality, for 100 credits. What choice do we have? But the regulations, Zalin protested. The council has standards. The council has monopolies, the administrator interrupted. They keep prices high and choices limited. The humans offer competition. Real competition. It's good for everyone except the council corporations. Zalin returned to council space with a report that terrified the leadership. Humanity hadn't just survived exile. They had built an entire alternate economy, and it was growing fast enough to challenge the council's control. Emergency sessions were called. The council leadership gathered in private chambers, away from public observation. This cannot be allowed, Trade Councilor Nithrax insisted. If humans continue to operate freely, they will undermine the entire economic structure we've built. Built? Someone muttered. You mean the structure that keeps a few species wealthy while everyone else struggles? Nithrax ignored the comment. We must act. Shut down their operations. Enforce the exile. Military Coordinator Thexul agreed. Deploy warships. Blockade their trade routes. Seize their vessels. Show them that exile means exile. The order went out. Council warships moved to the border regions with instructions to stop any human trade vessels and enforce economic sanctions against any colony dealing with humans. That's when everything went wrong. Captain Dong Yunru commanded. The merchant convoy that encountered the council blockade. 5 council warships surrounded his fleet of 10 cargo vessels, weapons armed and shields raised. Human vessels, you are in violation of your exile, the council commander broadcast. Shut down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Donghun activated his communications. Council vessels, we are in neutral space conducting lawful trade. We are not in council territory. You have no authority here. You were exiled. That means no trade, no travel, no contact with council species. That's not what the exile stated. The exile banned us from council space. This isn't council space. Dong Yun kept his voice calm and professional. We're not breaking any laws. You are breaking our laws. Surrender now. Dong Yun sighed. They had known this would happen eventually. I'm afraid I can't do that. We have contracts to fulfill. People are depending on these supplies. Then you leave us no choice. We will disable your vessels and seize your cargo. The council ships opened fire. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted 12 minutes. The council ships targeted the human cargo vessels with precision fire meant to disable engines and shields. They were very good at this. They had done it hundreds of times to pirates and smugglers. But human ships were not like other ships. The cargo vessel shields held against the initial barrage. Then, before the council ships could fire again, the human vessels did something unexpected. They fired back, not with conventional weapons. Something else. A pulse of energy that seemed to pass right through the council ship shields and struck their power systems directly. One by one, the council warships went dark. Not destroyed, not damaged, just completely shut down. 12 minutes after it started, 5 council warships were drifting in space. Their crews unharmed, but their systems offline. The human convoy continued on its way, not even slowing down. Donghun sent one final message before jumping away. We don't want war. We never wanted war. But we won't accept oppression. We won't accept being told we can't trade, can't travel, can't live our lives freely. Choose wisely what you do next. The message reached the council like a thunderbolt. Their warships had been defeated. Not in a long battle, not after a hard fight, easily, almost casually. How? Exile demanded, watching the recordings. How did their weapons bypass our shields? Intelligence Director Kivara had been studying the data. They're using technology we don't have, more advanced than ours. Remember, they've had 20 years without our restrictions holding them back. 20 years isn't enough time to advance that far. It is if you're not following rules designed to slow advancement. It is if you're not protecting corporate profits over innovation. It is if you're actually trying to improve instead of maintaining the status quo. President Jisoo Yoon addressed the Human Assembly from Earth, which had been restored and rebuilt into humanity's political capital. The assembly now met in a grand chamber carved into a mountain, with representatives from all human colonies and allied species. The council has made its move, Jisoo said. They tried to stop our trade through force. They failed. Now they have a choice. Accept that we exist, that we have the right to conduct peaceful trade, or escalate to open war. Madam President, one representative asked, are we prepared for war if it comes? We have been prepared for 20 years, Admiral Hyunwoo replied from the military section. Our fleets are ready. Our defenses are strong. But we prefer peace. Peace on our terms? Another representative added. Not submission. Jisoo nodded. Exactly. We will not crawl back to the council and beg for readmission. We will not accept second-class status. Either they treat us as equals or we continue building our own path. Back in the council chambers, Intelligence Director Kivara presented her full analysis. The news was worse than anyone had expected. Humanity has formed an alliance network, she reported. 37 species have joined what they call the Independent Systems Alliance. These are mostly species that were marginalized or exploited under council rule. She displayed star charts showing the alliance territory. They control resource-rich regions. Their combined economy rivals our own. Their technology in several key areas exceeds ours. And their public relations campaign is devastating. What campaign? Arbiter of Extalis asked. Kivara activated a recording. It showed a human news broadcast being watched by species across the galaxy. The reporter was explaining the truth about the Forbidden Zone, the artificial scarcity, the technology suppression, all the ways the Council had maintained control through deception. They're exposing everything, Kivara said quietly. Every secret we've kept, every lie we've told. And people believe them because they can prove it. They show the resources that exist in regions we claimed were uninhabitable. They demonstrate technology we said was impossible. This is propaganda, Exile insisted. Lies meant to discredit us, is it? A voice asked. It was one of the smaller council members, a species that rarely spoke. Can we prove they're lying? Because I've seen the reports from the border regions. Their medical technology does cure diseases we said were incurable. Their ships are faster than ours. Their trade prices are better than ours. If they're lying, prove it. If they're telling the truth. The speaker trailed off. Kivara continued her report. Military assessment. We could defeat them in a full war, but the cost would be enormous. Thousands of ships lost. Trillions in resources. And we'd have to fight not just humans, but their entire alliance network. Economic assessment. Their alternate economy is growing faster than ours. Species are choosing to trade with them because it benefits them more than council trade. Within 10 years, they may be the dominant economic power in the galaxy. Political assessment. They've exposed our practices to public scrutiny. Species across the council are questioning our authority. Some are threatening to leave and join the Independent Alliance. The chamber was silent. The council members looked at each other, and for the first time in centuries, they felt uncertain. The council chamber looked different now. The same 73 species still had their seats carved into the circular walls, but new seats had been added at the insistence of the reform movement. 30 more species now sat in the chamber, representing what had been called the Independent Systems Alliance. They were full members now, with equal voting rights. Ambassador Wu Jinhan sat in one of those new seats. 25 years had passed since humanity's exile, and 5 years since what historians now called the Reformation. The galaxy had changed, and Wu Jin had been part of making it happen. Today's session was routine, discussing trade regulations for newly contacted species. But Wu Jin remembered when sessions like this were anything but routine, when every meeting was a battle, when the old council fought desperately to maintain their control. They had lost that battle, not through war, but through something more powerful, being proven wrong. The reforms had come gradually, forced through by species who saw what humanity had accomplished and wanted the same opportunities. Technology-sharing protocols were established, replacing the old restrictions that had kept advancement slow. Fair trade agreements replaced monopolistic practices. The forbidden zones were open for exploration and settlement. Younger species gained representation instead of being treated as vassals. The old council members had resisted at first. Then they had seen the economic data. Economist Hannah Lim had presented the numbers to a joint session 5 years ago. Wu Jin had been there, and he still remembered the shocked silence that followed her presentation. In the 5 years since humanity began open trade, the galactic economy has grown by 40%, Hannah had explained. Her charts and graphs showing the undeniable truth. Not 40% for humans, 40% for everyone. She had displayed the poverty rates, the health outcomes, the education levels, all improving, all getting better as the restrictions were lifted. The old system kept most species poor, so a few could be wealthy, Hannah had continued. The new system, based on free trade and shared knowledge, makes everyone wealthier. This isn't theory. This is measured data from thousands of worlds. Trade Counselor Nithrax, who had opposed the reforms most strongly, had asked the obvious question. But what about the corporations? The established businesses? They're losing profits. Some are, Hannah had agreed. The ones that relied on monopolies and artificial scarcity. But new businesses are forming. Innovation is accelerating. Overall economic activity is much higher. There's more wealth being created, even if it's being distributed more fairly. That presentation had turned the tide. Species that had been uncertain about reform saw the proof. The old way kept them poor. The new way, humanity's way, made them prosperous. Now, sitting in the Reform Council, Wu Jin listened to a debate about helping a newly discovered species develop space travel technology. The old council would have controlled every aspect of that development, rationing knowledge and keeping the species dependent. The new council was discussing how to help them advance quickly while respecting their autonomy. After the session, Wu Jin met with Admiral Jiwan Park in one of the station's observation lounges. She was old now, in her 70s, but still sharp and active. She had been promoted from captain to admiral and now served as humanity's chief military advisor to the council. Thinking about the old days? Jiwan asked, settling into a chair beside him. How did you know? You get a certain look. Like you're remembering something that seems impossible. She smiled. I do it too. Sometimes I can't believe we actually pulled it off. Did you ever think we'd be sitting here? Full council members again, but on our terms. Jiwan considered the question. Honestly? Yes, I knew we would. Maybe not exactly how it would happen, but I knew humans couldn't be kept down. We're too stubborn, too innovative, too unwilling to accept that things have to stay the same. A young aide approached them. Admiral, Ambassador, there's someone here to see you. Arbiter Vextalis requests a private meeting. Wujin and Jiwan exchanged glances. The Arbiter rarely requested private meetings. They followed the aide to a smaller conference room where the crystalline being waited, his body slightly dimmed from its usual brightness. Admiral. Ambassador. Vextalis greeted them, his mental voice less formal than usual. Thank you for seeing me. Of course, Arbiter, Wujin replied. How can we help you? I wanted to speak with you both personally, away from official channels. It has been 5 years since the Reformation, 25 years since the Exile. I believe enough time has passed that I can say something I should have said long ago. He paused, and when he continued, his mental voice carried something that surprised them both. Humility. We were wrong. I was wrong. When we exiled humanity, I believed we were protecting galactic stability. I believed humans were too disruptive, too unwilling to follow necessary rules. I thought your exile would be a lesson to others about the importance of order. Jiwan leaned forward. What changed your mind? Everything. The data. The results. The proof that our necessary rules were actually unnecessary restrictions. That our stability was stagnation. That our order was oppression of anyone who threatened the status quo. Vextalis' S-form flickered. You humans ask questions we had stopped asking. Why must things be this way? Can we do better? What if we tried something new? We had forgotten how to think like that. We had become comfortable with the way things were. So you exiled us, Wujin said quietly. We exiled you. And you used that exile to prove everything we believed was wrong. You survived where we thought you would die. You thrived where we thought you would struggle. You advanced where we thought you would stagnate. And then you came back and showed us a better way. The Arbiter moved closer to the window, looking out at the bustling station. Young species now reach space travel in decades instead of centuries because they have help instead of restrictions. Diseases are cured because research is funded instead of suppressed. Innovation happens rapidly because knowledge is shared instead of hoarded. The galaxy is better. We just couldn't see it until you forced us to look. Jiwan stood and walked to stand beside him. You know what the funny thing is? We didn't do this to prove you wrong. We did it because it's who we are. Humans see a problem and try to fix it. We see a challenge and work to overcome it. We see unfairness and fight to change it. That's what makes you dangerous, Vextalis said, but his tone suggested it wasn't criticism. Dangerous to those who benefit from problems not being fixed, from challenges not being overcome, from unfairness continuing. We prefer the word disruptive, Wujin said with a slight smile. We disrupt tyranny. We disrupt stagnation. We disrupt comfortable lies. Professor Kyungmin Seo was teaching a class at the new Bizen Galactic University. His students were a mix of humans and aliens, young people from a dozen different species learning together. The university had become one of the most prestigious in the galaxy, known for its innovative research and collaborative approach. Today's lesson was about recent galactic history. A student, a young Quillari, raised one of her 4 arms. Professor, why did the Council exile humanity in the first place? Looking at it now, it seems stupid. Several students laughed. Kyungmin smiled but raised a hand for quiet. It's easy to judge the past from the present. But put yourself in the Council's position. They have maintained order for thousands of years. Then humans arrive, and within 50 years, they're questioning everything, breaking traditions, changing rules. But the rules were bad. Another student, a human, protested. Many were yes. But the Council didn't see them that way. They saw rules that had maintained peace and stability. They saw humans as troublemakers who wouldn't respect authority. So they were afraid of us? The Quillari student asked. In a way, yes. They were afraid that if humans continued unchecked, they would dismantle the entire system. And they were right to be afraid because that's exactly what we did. Kyungmin pulled up historical images on the display. But we didn't dismantle it through violence. We dismantled it by proving there was a better way. An alien student from one of the species that had recently joined the council spoke up. My grandparents lived under the old council. They say life is much better now. They say humans saved the galaxy. That's kind of them to say, Kyungmin replied. But humans didn't save the galaxy alone. We showed what was possible, but species across the galaxy chose to embrace change. They chose reform over stagnation. They chose progress over comfort. That took courage from everyone, not just humans. But if the council hadn't exiled you, the Quillari student pressed, would any of this have happened? Kyungmin considered the question carefully. Honestly, I don't know. The exile forced humanity to become self-reliant. It forced us to innovate without restrictions. It gave us the freedom to build something better. In a strange way, the council gave us exactly what we needed. They tried to punish you and accidentally made you stronger? Yes, and that's the lesson I want you to remember. When you try to suppress people who refuse to be suppressed, you don't eliminate the problem. You create your successor. The class ended, and students filed out, discussing the lesson. Kyungmin remained at his desk, looking out the window at the thriving station beyond. Ships from dozens of species moved through space in coordinated patterns.